838, which was less than 877, which was disappointing.
Dang it!
And in hindsight, I should have known it's really hard to compete with the human body in terms of things like punching and throwing, because we're just so efficient with those mechanics, and I have to sacrifice a lot of the speed and momentum of my own arm body system when I'm wearing that heavy wrist-mounted puncher. But you know what? I'm a fighter, and what I lack in muscle mass, I make up for in tenacity. So out of curiosity, I took a closer look to see how the machine actually works. And it turns out it has a beam brake sensor just like the basketball game. So as that odd-shaped metal piece, which is attached to the axle and punching bag, rotates around, the beam has this tiny window to hit the sensor. You can see the sensor in the front view here. So the game cleverly measures how many milliseconds the sensor sees the beam for, and from that, it infers how quickly the bag is rotating on the axle, and therefore how hard it was punched. And this gave me an idea. So I went to the prize counter and redeemed a few of my jackpot tickets I'd been stocking up in exchange for a Pez dispenser. Step 1 was to unwrap and eat some of the Pez, because they're just delicious. And then for step 2, I removed the head and cut the arcade card like this, and then taped it here, and then went and tracked down my new friend. My theory was that if I extended the Pez dispenser and modified card out like this, and then let go, the force of the spring would retract the card, and it would break the beam so fast, the machine would think it was an insanely fast punch. But would it actually work? And it turns out, it absolutely does, because I maxed out the machine. So, yeah, use this information responsibly, kids. Now, a few years ago, I made a video where I visited the carnival and collected data on all the games and then used physics to expose which carnival games were rigged and then showed how to beat them. So this time around, instead of the carnival, I once again bribed some family friends with unlimited Slurpees in exchange for them collecting a bunch of data at some local arcades. And in addition to uncovering which games were scams, which I'll cover in just a minute, here's what we discovered. For starters, the most popular games in the arcade were the redemption games, as opposed to the experience games. And here's what I mean by that. Redemption games are the games where the goal is to win tickets. So like the coin pushers, or this Plinko game, or spin the wheel. On the other end of the spectrum, you have experience games like air hockey, skee ball, or racing games. It's a trade-off, because the games on this side of the spectrum give out more tickets, but it's not as much about the fun of the experience. And then in the middle of the spectrum, you have games like the ping pong drop or hit the clown that have middle of the road ticket payouts, but they're also middle of the road fun to play. Now, since the games on this side were a lot more popular, they earn a lot more money for the arcade even when you factor in the higher ticket payouts. We found that for a medium-sized arcade on a busy day, the less popular games were played 25 times and the more popular ones could be played up to 250 times or more. At an average gameplay of $1, that means each game makes $25 to $250 per day, or about $7,000 to $70,000 per year. And finally, we found that if your sole goal was to win tickets,